如果你在聆听时不需要频繁暂停就能理解大意，那么你的英语积累在日常表达中是完全够用的。像学母语一样学英语，我们开始吧。
Could a man win a great war, hold all the power in his hands, and then choose to give it all away, especially when kings and queens ruled almost every other land? This is the story of such a man. His name was George. He grew up a tall boy on a farm in Virginia, growing to be about 188 centimeters, long before America was its own country. Even as a boy, he was strong, loved being outdoors, and learned to be observant, his calm, thoughtful eyes taking in everything. Later, George became a soldier. His tall height and straight way of standing made him look important, and others looked up to him. He fought in some early wars when America was still ruled by England, a country far across the big ocean. Being a soldier was hard and dangerous. George learned how to lead men. He wasn't a loud talker, but when he spoke with his quiet, serious voice, people listened. He learned how to be brave even when things were scary, and how to keep going when things were tough, showing a strong will very early on. He became known as a good and steadfast leader. As years passed, many people in America felt that the king and rulers in England were not being fair to them. They made rules and taxes that the American people did not like. George, with his serious and thoughtful way of looking at things, agreed this was wrong. They wanted to be treated fairly and have a say in how they were governed. Soon, a big fight started. The American people decided they wanted to be free from England and have their own country. This was the start of a long war called the American Revolution. Because George was known as a brave, fair, and wise leader, and because he looked like a true commander, so tall and dignified, the American leaders asked him to be the top general, the commander-in-chief of their new army. George said yes, feeling the great weight of the job. It was a very important and very difficult task. The war against England was very long, lasting for 8 hard years. George's army was small, and his soldiers were not trained like the English soldiers. They often had little food, no warm clothes in the cold winter, and not enough guns. Many times it looked like they would lose. One winter at a place called Valley Forge was especially terrible. The soldiers were freezing and starving. But George stayed with them, his presence calm and strong, even when his own heart was heavy. He shared their hardships and never gave up hope. His own ability to endure quietly gave them courage. He encouraged them to be strong and to keep fighting for their freedom. With help from other countries, like France, and after many, many battles, the American army, with George as their steady and unwavering leader, finally won a very big battle at a place called Yorktown. This victory meant America had won the war. They were free. Now George Washington was the greatest hero in all of America. His soldiers loved him, not just for his bravery, but for his fairness and the quiet strength they felt when he was near. All the people looked up to him. The war was over, and America was a new, free country. Because he was so powerful and so loved, and looked so much like a great ruler, some people thought George should become the king of America. They thought a king would make the country strong. It is important to remember that in those days, long ago, almost every country in the world was ruled by a king or a queen. That was the only way most people knew how a country should be led. It was very hard for people to imagine a country without a king. If you were a powerful general who had just won a great war, like George had, most people in the world would expect you to become the new king. Almost any leader with that much power would have wanted to be king, because that's what leaders usually did. But George, who always thought carefully before acting, thought very differently. He believed that the new country should be ruled by the people, not by a king or a single powerful person. He had fought so hard for freedom, and he did not want one person to have too much power. So George did something that amazed the whole world, especially because almost every other leader would have wanted to be a king. He went to the leaders of the new American government, who were meeting in a city called Annapolis. He stood before them, tall and dignified as always, his calm eyes showing his firm decision. And he gave back all his power as general and commander-in-chief. He said his work as a soldier was done. He thanked his soldiers and his country. Then, he said he was going home to his farm at Mount Vernon, to live as a simple citizen. This was a very, very important moment, something almost unheard of. Not many people in history who had so much power, especially when everyone else was a king or wanted to be one, had ever just given it away like that. It showed that George loved his country and its new idea of freedom more than he loved power for himself. It showed he was a true leader who trusted the people. This act, done with such quiet dignity, made him even more of a hero in the eyes of his people and for people all over the world who dreamed of freedom. It was his greatest gift, a foundation stone for the new United States, a country that would try to be different from all the kingdoms of the world. After George went home, the new country still had many problems. The first set of rules they made, called the Articles of Confederation, made the government too weak. The states argued with each other, and the country was not very strong. So, the leaders decided they needed to meet again and write a better set of rules. This big meeting was called the Constitutional Convention. They asked George to come and help. Everyone trusted his fairness and his serious, thoughtful way of leading. George was chosen to be the president of this important meeting. For a whole summer, wise men from all the states talked, argued, and finally agreed on a new plan for the government. This plan was called the Constitution, and it is still the rules for America today. George did not say much during the debates, but his presence, calm, dignified, and fair, helped everyone work together to create this new plan. He believed it was a good plan that would make the country strong and protect the freedom of the people. When the Constitution was ready, the country needed its first president. Everyone knew who it should be. They all chose George Washington. George, again, did not really want the job. He loved his farm and his quiet life with his wife, Martha. But he knew his country needed him to lead one more time, to help this new government get started right. His strong sense of duty told him he must accept. So he said yes. Being the first president was a very hard job. George had to set an example for all presidents to come. He moved with a natural dignity that made people respect the new office. He chose good and smart people to help him run the country. He helped set up the new government, making sure it was strong but also fair. He even helped choose and plan a special place for the nation's capital, a new city that would later be named Washington, D.C., to honor him. He listened to different ideas, even when people disagreed strongly, and his calm, thoughtful manner often helped find a good path. He helped the country pay its debts and build respect with other nations. He always tried to do what he thought was best for all the people and for the future of the United States. He was careful to show that the president was a servant of the people, not a king. He showed great self-control, even when things were frustrating. George Washington was president for 8 years, which was 2 terms. After his second term, he decided it was time for someone else to lead. He wanted to show, once again, that in a free country, leaders should not stay in power for too long. He wrote a famous letter to the American people, his farewell address. In it, he asked them to love their country, to stay united, and to be good citizens. And so, George Washington, the tall soldier who stood about 188 centimeters, the quiet leader who guided a new nation, did more than just win a war or lead a country. This idea, that power belongs to the people and not to one person, was his lasting gift, a bright guiding star for America and for all who dream of freedom from kings and queens. That is a very big thing to remember.
作为一个母语非英语的人，能把故事听完，你的进步太大了。感谢你收看这个节目，如果你觉得这个节目对你有帮助，请给我一个点赞或者留下评论，这对我很重要。这里是像学母语一样学英语频道，我们下个视频见。